Young people are more likely to care about climate change action. That's according to a new poll from Pew Research Center. Adults age 18 to 29 are more likely to support a transition away from fossil fuels. And Yale University found younger generations are more likely than their parents and grandparents to believe that climate change is human caused. Meanwhile, boomers are least likely to worry about the climate change.
But of course, you can't paint everyone with the broad brush because there are plenty of climate activists over the age of 60. Bill McKibben is an author, educator, and founder of The Third Act, talking to us now about The Third Act. Mr. McKibben, thank you so much for being with us. What is The Third Act?
Well, we're a fast-growing group of Americans over the age of 60 working for progressive change, especially around the climate crisis. And we've been organizing huge numbers of big demonstrations and things for the last year. We've got about 50,000 people, working groups across America. It turns out there's a lot of us with hairlines like mine who really are concerned about what on earth is going on this earth.
So why is it so important for the older generations to actually speak up about climate-related issues?
Well, as you pointed out, young people are doing most of the leading, Stephanie, but it's not fair to just say, oh, it's up to the next generation to solve this problem. Not fair because we created most of it, but also not practical. Young people, for all their energy, intelligence, idealism, lack the structural power to make the change we need on the scale that's required in the time that we have. Older people have a lot of structural power. There's 70 million people over the age of 60 in this country. That's the population of France. 10,000 more every day, which is more than the number of people born in this country every day. Not only that, we punch above our weight politically because we all vote. There's no known way to stop old people from voting. And we ended up with most of the money. We've got about 70% of the country's financial assets. So if you wanted to lean on Washington or on Wall Street, and we want to do both, it would be good to have some people, well, we call them experienced Americans.
Why is it that some of these experienced Americans aren't kind of agreeing with the whole climate change idea?
Well, I mean, not everybody's going to agree with everything, but in that 70 million, there are huge numbers who are. It's traditionally we've thought that people become more conservative as they age, and there may be some of that. Just you get a little more, maybe a little more to protect or something. But extraordinary numbers of people now in their third act, when they were in their first act, were around for those remarkable moments of social and cultural and political transformation when we began taking women seriously in public life, the apex of the civil rights movement, the first Earth Day, when 20 million Americans in 1970 took to the streets. And those people now have grandkids, and they're understanding that the legacy we're about to leave them is a planet worse off than the one that we were born onto, but we have the muscle memory from those earlier fights to play a big role. You saw that last month when we took on the big banks that fund the fossil fuel industry. There were 100 demonstrations from Alaska to Maine to Florida to California, all across the country. I was in Washington, D.C., where we shut down Chase and Citi and Wells Fargo and Bank of America branches for the day. And we did it by sitting in with rocking chairs. It was a pretty remarkable day and a sign to the powers that be that they don't have to contend just with young people. Those young people have some older people backing them up.
So if someone's watching this and they want to get involved in Third Act, whether they're in their third act or maybe in their first or second, do you take the younger crowd along with you guys as well?
We don't check IDs, but tell your parents and grandparents, send them our way to thirdact.org. For young people, there's wonderful groups that we work closely with, groups like the Sunrise Movement that brought us the Green New Deal. So there's room for everybody of every age, but it is time for older people to start acting the way we need elders acting in a working civilization. This climate fight is deadly serious. It's the biggest thing that human beings have ever done. And so we need to be standing up to make sure it doesn't get any more out of control.
We have about a minute left. You mentioned as folks get into their third act of life, they maybe lean more conservative. Are some of the folks that you talk to of your age group trying to have to figure out if they have to pick a side? Oh, I'm for this, but yet I'm conservative. Is that idea alive, or are you finding more of these people are hopping on the bandwagon because they have these grandkids, like you said?
Lots and lots of people are beginning to understand that that conservative means trying to protect a world that looks something like the one you were born onto. I was born on a planet with lots of ice at the North Pole and the South Pole and the occasional coral reef in between. It strikes me as highly radical that we're raising the temperature of that Earth, melding those poles, destroying those coral reefs. Strikes me as conservative idea to try and say, let's protect some of what we had.
Bill McKibben from Third Act, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate
Yes, we do.
you coming on.